So, True Lion, good day. Good day.
Hey, what time is it over there? You in Portsmouth, right?
I think we well into 11 p.m. I think. What's your time in Charlotte?
It's 7:23. It's
Oh, so I'm
7:23.
well into midnight. I'm well into
Yeah,
midnight. I've lost time. I've lost time.
exactly.
How is the weather in Charlotte?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. You see the way I'm dressed. I'm just wearing a polo shirt and all that. It's beautiful weather.
Okay.
How's the weather over there in Portsmouth?
It was very hot. It was very hot. I've got my fan running, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. So you ready for this?
Yes, of course. I'm ready to talk about André Onana. That's what we're talking about, right?
Indeed, indeed. He's been in the news a lot since moving to Manchester United for the right and the wrong reasons.
Yes, I mean it's the hot seat. Manchester United has so many fans, and they're always in the news, and there's always someone that they're gonna pick up as a scapegoat. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. So Onana has been a very engaging subject of discussion in football, not only in the UK but across the world. Also, specifically in Cameroon, but much more recently in the UK and in Europe. But does he deserve the kind of media reports or press that is being served about him? I'm not sure.
But we will not do him justice if we start talking about him without giving his background. Andrew Onana, he's 29 years old. He was born in a little village called Nkongok in the Bankomo locality in the central region of Cameroon. His playing career began with Fondesport and took him to Barcelona in 2010. Whilst in Barcelona, Onana had two loan spells with Conella and Vista Alegre. In 2015, Onana joined Ajax. In 2021, whilst playing for Ajax, he was banned for 12 months for testing positive of furosemide, a banned substance, which he said it was as a result of taking his wife's medication. The ban was later reduced to 9 months by the Court of Arbitration. I mean, what's your take on this?
Well, it's a very difficult one. The specialists have dealt with it. Sometimes footballers do get themselves in this conundrums, especially when it comes to banned substances. Onana is not the first case. He will not be the last. Paul Pogba recently fell victim to the same banned substance issues. So, yeah, Onana is
Yep, I
not
mean
the
you're
only
right
one,
about.
and he will not be
Yeah,
the
I mean
last.
you're right. Yeah, I mean you're right about that. What intrigued me or what caught my attention is the way he bounced out from that. Tells me the dude has a strong mentality. However, Onana, let's talk about his profile a little bit. He is 190. All he actually signed a 5-year contract for Manchester United. When you talk about Onana, André Onana, he's a modern goalkeeper, sweeper keeper, strong distribution skills, good in build-up play. Okay, and he has
Yeah,
a good range, a good passing range as well.
yeah,
When you look at the UEFA technical observers report on André Onana in 2022-2023, he was described as a holding midfielder at times. Interesting. In July
yeah.
2023, he was described as a modern goalkeeper with the technique of an outfield player. And we have seen that many a times when André Onana plays. I mean, what does that tell you?
Yes, Andre Onana was described as such, as a modern keeper, an example of a modern keeper, and one of the best at that, and rightfully so. Whilst playing for Cameroon at the World Cup 2022 in Qatar during the opening game against Switzerland, Onana had more touches of the ball outside the box, 26, than any other goalkeeper has had in a World Cup match since records began in 1966. And if you look back at Onana's games, especially when he was playing for Inter Milan, especially the finals, there were sequences in play when Onana was actually not the last player. He was actually ahead of Inter Milan defenders, threading passes through to Milan attackers. You know, he was the one beating the press from Man City attackers. You know, so those descriptions of André Onana fit quite rightly.
And that reminds me of a comment that Pep Guardiola made after that final, because he was asked, why could you not successfully press Inter Milan? And he pointed out André Onana. He said André Onana was the reason they could not successfully press Inter Milan, because he was beating the presses. Okay, but let me ask you this, because when you look at Onana's profile and what we have talked about him so far, so why did United sign André Onana?
That's a very good question and an interesting question, True Lion. I think this is a very complex question that meets the eye. Sometimes people think it's just a simplistic decision. No, it isn't. So André Onana signed a 5-year contract with Manchester United with a 1-year option if both club and player decide to extend. To understand why the club signed André Onana, one must first of all look at the club and also the clubs that the player played with. The first thing, or the first reason I would give for this, is that Manchester United signed Ten Hag. And what we have seen historically and even to date is that managers, when they come into a new environment, into a new football club, they like to work with players that they know. They always bring players. They always go back to the team that they were managing prior to joining the new club to sign players. So, and you could see when he came to Manchester United, obviously Van de Beek was already there. So he went back out again to get André Onana because he knows André Onana. He's worked with André Onana. And I think it was also because Manchester United was wanting to change their style of play and become, once again, a dominant team. And André Onana comes from a background of playing for teams that dominate possession: Barcelona, Ajax Amsterdam, and Inter Milan. These are teams that dominate possession, you know, and teams with the current dynamics of football, with the change of football coming from the Barcelona academy through Pep Guardiola and other managers. Most teams that dominate football want to start building from the back. And André Onana clearly suited that profile, having been voted that year as one of the best goalkeepers in Europe and the best goalkeeper in UEFA Champions League, playing in that style, which it was clear for everyone to see when Inter Milan played against Manchester City in the Champions League finals in 2022-2023. So Manchester United felt he was the ideal candidate for them to take them forward, and that was reflected by reports that were presented to in the media, you know, describing André Onana as the modern keeper sweeper, you know, the example, the one who sets the example for all other keepers to follow. So that's the reason why I feel Manchester United wanted to sign André Onana.
But okay, listening to what you just said, right? They signed André Onana because they wanted to dominate. They wanted to switch to a style of play that actually suits the new coach. I mean, Ten Hag, and he went back to the players that he actually knows, players that he's been playing with. But do you think that Manchester United was prepared for that? Because it's a package, right? It's a puzzle. So you need the right pieces in order to play that type of football. Now, when you look at the profiles of players that play with Onana, especially, you know, that back line, do you think that the players have attributes, ball handling attributes, to play together with Onana?
Thank you for that question. That's a good way. That's a good way, or for that point, that's a good way of looking at it. You know, there is this word that I love to use, and I always advise people when we speak, and I always tell my friends that the way the French talk about a team, la composition, composition, chemistry, composition. When you're buying a player, so in assessing a player, if you take player A, say for example, you take Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire is playing alongside Dalot. He's playing alongside Martinez, and he's playing alongside Luke Shaw, for example. When you're assessing Harry Maguire, you're assessing him within the context of the group of players he's playing with, because he's not a player in isolation. He is working in a system, So if you put Maguire and Martinez together with Dalot and Luke Shaw, it gives you a different set of skills. So it's no longer the Maguire that you know as an individual. It's a different outcome altogether. So that word composition is really important. So when you're buying a player, you need to be sure that when you put that player amongst a group of other players, or you put them together, if it's just a pair, that the resulting outcome is what you would expect. And that will be your reason for signing that player. So if Ten Hag wanted to play a dominant style, and he had seen that, he and his recruitment staff had seen that André Onana was the ideal goalkeeper for Manchester United, did they analyze the other players that they have within their squad, especially in the defense, as the right fit to play that system with André Onana? Or did they just think André Onana would come in and it would work? And this is where group psychology comes in, in terms of sports psychology being one part of group psychology, where the group, the environment can affect how another player performs, and one player can affect how the other players perform, so composition is very important. And I think Manchester United did not do their groundwork properly. And that's, for me, a big problem, because whilst there have been some good displays from the team, from Onana, generally, I don't think it's worked, and that it's working, and a lot needs to be done for that to work. Otherwise, then I'm not sure where they're heading to.
Good point. But let's look a little bit. I think you do have you might have some more stuff to talk about concerning like how Onana did play at Ajax Amsterdam. He conceded lots of goals with Ajax Amsterdam, but the difference is that Ajax Amsterdam was a team that was dominant. They could keep the ball, they could score goals, So they played a high defensive line, and teams that play high defensive line to outscore you. So they're not really worried about conceding goals, but they want to outscore you. Can you draw like a comparison when you talk about Ajax went to Inter? The number of goals considered now at Manchester United, I believe, is higher than those previous teams. I mean, how do you look at that? How does Manchester United go to resolve this problem?
Yes, earlier on you went through the profile of André Onana being a sweeper keeper, confident on the ball, good range of passing, and the UEFA technical report describing him as a goalkeeper with the skills of a holding midfielder, whilst playing for Ajax, and this is something that people might not be aware of. The statistics from Ajax indicate that André Onana conceded a lot of goals. And the same for Inter Milan, he conceded a lot of goals playing for those teams. And as you rightly say, Ajax and Inter Milan would outscore you, So he played for, out of 214 games whilst he was playing for Ajax, he conceded 192 goals, making an average of 0.8 goals per game. So he was almost conceding a goal every game, For Inter Milan, he played 41 games, conceding 36 goals. Again, 0.8. Now, in his first season at Manchester United, André Onana played 51 games, and he conceded 83 goals. Now, the average is 1.6 goals per game. Now, Manchester United concedes a lot of goals. It's not only whilst André Onana has been there. That has been an issue for a while. So yes, André Onana has made mistakes, but I think people are expecting miracles all the time for André Onana. It's as if he has to save every single ball that's coming through. But if you look at the statistics from Ajax and from Inter Milan, the issue there is that André Onana was conceding a lot of goals, but his team, with his contribution, was more offensive and scoring more goals. So they will beat you 3-1, 3-2, 4-2. You're going to score, but they will outscore you. So whilst he's conceding more goals at Manchester United is not scoring as many goals or winning as many games as those other teams, as Ajax Amsterdam and Inter Milan were winning. So, and that's an issue for Manchester United. And I think that is also one of the reasons that makes Onana's role and position at Manchester United very, very troublesome, for some fans. And some fans thinking that he's not delivering. But I think there is more to that than meets the eye.
So I want to talk a little bit about the power dynamics of Manchester United, because I think that has also affected the performances of André Onana at Manchester United. I want to talk about the fans. De Gea, a legend, left Manchester United, and some fans were not happy the way he left Manchester United. We know that De Gea was making around 20 million, one of the highest paid players at Manchester United. He was also on the older side of things, but fans were not happy. Do you think that affected André? That has affected André Onana. I'm talking about psychologically, because as soon as he started making mistakes, fans started going against him because he came and replaced a legend in David De Gea.
I think that is a tricky one, because you have to be in the mind of the player to understand what the player is thinking, in terms of the previous goalkeeper, But I think that sometimes fans get. I usually say fans are in a fan mode, and when you're in a fan mode, it's very dangerous, because you don't reflect, you don't reason, you don't look at things logically. People think that yes, De Gea was an exceptional goalkeeper, but De Gea also made lots of mistakes, and he made terrible mistakes. I can vividly remember Roy Keane in the studios of Sky Sports going, "I am sick and tired of this goalkeeper. I am sick and tired of these errors," and all that. And the Spanish national team dropped David De Gea because of mistakes, And David De Gea's feet were not. He was not a very good. He was not very good with his feet, And again, that's one thing that the Spanish team did not like. They wanted a goalkeeper as well who was good with the feet, and that's the same thing for Manchester United. They wanted a change of style, as well as the financial aspect. The financial aspect came into it as well. So they felt it was time to move on from De Gea and have a goalkeeper that fitted the style that they wanted to develop their game towards. So yes, some fans forever like De Gea. There's nothing André Onana can do about that. André Onana just needs to do the job that he's been brought in to do. Whether that is affecting him, I do not know. I don't think so. I think André Onana presents as a very confident person who would do things the way he wants to do them, and will say things the way he wants, the way he sees them, and deal with the consequences, as we have seen in the media recently. So I don't think that fans have the right to express their feelings and thoughts. They would always do, and there's nothing André can do about it, rather than keep doing his work. So I wouldn't know really if that affects him, but to some extent it might. But I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay, thank you for that. I think André Onana has also made like some mistakes here. We're talking about mistakes and all that, but I want to just stay within that power dynamics coaching. Okay, it was Ten Hag, now it's Amorim, and we see that has not only affected André Onana, it's affected the team, because now Amorim came in and he decided to go with a different tactical approach. And when I watched the game against Lyon, it's true, Lyon went a player down. But the way Lyon actually approached the game and tormented Manchester United, I'm talking about the game in Manchester, defensively, some of those players did not know their role. They were not positioning themselves differently. So, yes, we can talk about Onana conceding all these goals. But I also think that the changing in coaches has also affected not only Onana, but the team as a whole. I mean, what do you make of this?
Certainly, when coaches change, philosophies change. Practice changes. When I talk about practice, I mean the way you play. So philosophy, and the tactical changes, personnel changes. It's like you're starting all over again. You know, and it's not only that. It's not only about the staff. If you look at Manchester United since André Onana came into the team, there's been a lot of changes in his defensive setup. Today, it's Lindelof, it's Maguire, it's Martinez. There's been a lot of chopping and changing, and that's been difficult for him because Andre Onana hasn't really been able to build a rapport with a specific defense team, a specific number of players that he knows he is going to be playing with them day in, day out. I think Varane was also part of that setup, when he first came. So there has been consistent changes. So Manchester United has not really settled. So not only has there been a change of a manager, there's been a change of the tactics. There's been a change of, the dynamics of the team. So it has been difficult for Andre Onana. So that has affected the team. That has affected him, and it would affect performances. But players should be able to perform under pressure. So whilst these things can affect players, you expect them as professionals, and they train every day to get used to these changes, twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, so that they can become used to this. And like you rightly say, that the change of the tactics did affect the players, or did affect how they played. It does, because the opposition would make you move into places on the pitch that you didn't want to, and it would make things very uncomfortable for you. So whilst you might want to do things in a specific way as outlined by your coach during training sessions, the opposition would bring other puzzles to the game that would make you do things that you do not expect to do, and that can affect the entire dynamics of the team and how you play, and performances are affected as a result. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. So talking about power dynamics, I want to quote, or I want to read what Peter Schmeichel, we know is a legend. We know lots of legends have been training. We also saw that incident with Matip. But this is what Peter Schmeichel had to say, right? Considering the goal that Onana conceded against Lyon.
Yeah.
He said he was asked about that goal, that free kick. So he said it's a difficult one. I'm not going goalkeepers union on Onana, okay? But he said he thinks that it was a tricky free kick. And although he thinks Onana could have saved that ball, but it was tricky. I mean, you saw the goal. Can you explain why Peter Michael somehow comes into Onana's defense here? Although not totally, but somehow when I read in between the lines, comes to Onana's defense.
Yeah. It was a tricky free kick. I think sometimes people get carried away. People can look at it from different perspectives. Oh, he reacted late. The thing with free kicks, those incoming free kicks, as they call them in French, rentrant, the free kicks that are coming into the goal. As a keeper, you're expecting a header or a touch. The ball is coming very quick. It travels very fast because it's whipped. Between you thinking somebody is going to deflect that ball and not deflecting the ball, it's very difficult to react, because before you know it, it's bouncing and it's gone, and you're just praying for dear life that it doesn't go in. I think it was a difficult one because You have the defenders, you have the keeper, you have the attackers. Someone could touch it, someone might not touch it. It's very difficult. It's touch and go. He could have done better, but in doing better, somebody could have deviated the ball. So if he had anticipated that the ball was not going to be deviated by anyone, he could have gone earlier. But what if he had gone earlier and then someone deviated the ball? What would fans then say? So I think it was a very difficult one, which is why Van der Sar did not want to blame Onana on that. He did not even comment about it when he was asked the question. It was a very difficult one. Fans would be angry. People would say anything, sensationalize it because they need to sell papers and they need to get views. But the reality is that free kick was very tricky. Onana could have saved it, but in trying to anticipate to save it, it could have been deviated into the first post, and he would have been blamed still. That why was he diving when he knew that someone could have touched the ball? So it was a very difficult one. It was a conundrum. And I think that goal right there, is the defense and the goalkeeper. You can't just blame Onana. You can't.
Yeah, I think Peter Schmeichel was the one that made that comment. However, you spoke about Van der Sar. Van der Sar was also questioned. He was the one who actually one of the responsible for Onana coming to Ajax Amsterdam. And when asked about Onana as a Manchester United goalkeeper, this is what he had to say. He said, "I think it's quite early, but Andre has a fantastic career in front of him. He's gaining more experience. He has all the qualities that a goalkeeper needs. So I'm sure for the next 5-6 years, he will keep improving. He has the right attitude as a goalkeeper for Manchester United." And that's something that I also think people fail to understand. Because when I look at Manchester United as a team, right, I think that they lack some type of leadership. Their captain, Fernandez, he's not really outspoken. He does his talking on the field. However, Onana is that type of guy that wants to be out there and take some of the heat coming to the team, right? So some people have looked at that, especially the fans, right? The fans, the De Gea, pro De Gea fans, they have looked at that and they have actually attacked Onana on some occasions. Do you think Onana has the right attitude? We've seen that attitude also put him in some type of problems when he plays for the Cameroon national team. I mean, what do you think about him being outspoken and being out there in the line of fire?
I think when you play for a big club, whether Man United remains a big club footballing wise is another discussion. It's a discussion for another day, not for us here. But playing coming through Barcelona, La Masia, it's like you're going to Yale University or you're at Oxford when it comes to academics, or Cambridge, coming through La Masia. And then you go to Ajax, again, one of the best teams in Europe at the time. When André Onana was there, Ajax was playing the best football in Europe, and then he goes to Inter Milan again, one of the biggest teams in Italy. So he is used to that environment, so he's used to courting media attention, whether he has the right approach to the media, whether he has the right approach to dealing with issues that come up in his career, whether it be with the Cameroonian national team or with the club, and how he speaks to the media is another question, especially what he said about Lyon before the game. Normally professional footballers always respond when questions are put to them about their opposition or upcoming opposition in a respectful manner. They would always talk about how dangerous the opposition teams are, how they have to be careful, they need to focus on their game, things like that. So it's very rare to hear a professional player say that we are in a better place than the other team. It is it's not a very good thing to say. It's kind of condescending. It's kind of disrespectful in a way. Some people might not look it like that or consider it to be, but as you saw from the reaction of Nemanja Matic, that is something that maybe in the dressing room at Lyon, the players did not take kindly to it, and it led to that reaction. But André Onana certainly has the right attitude. age is on his side. He is a goalkeeper. 29 is a young age for a goalkeeper. So his future is right in front of him, you know. And when somebody like Van der Sar speaks about a player like that, you know, then you know that player's got a bright future. And I think André Onana still has a bright future. Whether that is at United, I do not know. I know that there has been talk in the media about Amorim looking for a good goalkeeper. People forget to know that Amorim might be looking for a goalkeeper, but he might be looking for a goalkeeper that will put Onana under pressure. Not necessarily because the goalkeeper is going to come and be number one. No, many goalkeepers in the world will be looking at Onana and go, this guy is great. This guy is great. If he is struggling, what about me? You know? So players do know who is better than them. How many goalkeepers in Europe are better than André Onana? There are not many.
Not many.
You know,
not many.
There are not many. I think people think that there are just goalkeepers littered everywhere. You're just going to take them and bring. You can get a good goalkeeper, but the pressure at United, are they going to be able to stand the heat when the fire at Manchester United is on? You know, so
okay.
Be careful what you wish for.
I got something pretty interesting for you here. I want you to comment on this, right? Since the retirement of Sir Alex Ferguson in 2013, right, there's been a catalog of players going to Manchester United on their high. I can read you some names, right? We can go from the Daley Blind, we can go Wilfred Zaha, we can go to Falcao, Di Maria, Memphis Depay, Eric Bailly, Pogba. When you look at these names, even the CR7 who went back to Manchester United, I mean, what's happening to the players? They are going to Manchester United. They are not, expectation is high, but we see them struggle. The most recent one is Anthony. But as soon as I leave Manchester United, it's as if we are watching a different player. I mean, what do you make of this?
I will add to that. You know, I will add to that. You got Mkhitaryan, you got Lukaku, Alexis Sanchez, Alex Telles, Van de Beek, Jadon Sancho, Tyrell Malakia. You know, the list goes on and on. You know, these are guys who arrived Manchester United on a high, similar to André Onana. You know, you kind of, Casemiro is still there. You kind of look at it and you're going back and you're thinking, Bruno Fernandes seems to be the only player that's gone to Manchester United on a high, coming from Sporting as the captain and doing wonderful things for Sporting. And he's come to Manchester United and he's carried on doing well, you know. So, and when you look at some of those players, like you said, when they leave Manchester United, Alexis Sanchez played for Inter Milan when he left Man United, and he did well. You know, not as good as Lukaku is still banging them in, you know. Jadon Sancho is doing okay at Manchester United. I wouldn't say he is doing as well as was expected. Henrik Mkhitaryan is playing for one of the best teams in Europe still and is doing well, you know. So André Onana seems to be not the exception, but the rule, that good players who come to Manchester United on the high tend to struggle at Manchester United. And I think it was last week, after it was announced that Manchester United had come to an agreed terms with Mateus Cunha of Wolves, Paul Scholes said, good players should not be going to Manchester United. You know, Manchester United is no longer an attractive proposition. And the reason Paul Scholes said this was because the good players that have gone to Manchester United have struggled. And I will put André Onana in that category. You know, André Onana came to Manchester United at a high as the best goalkeeper in the European Champions League. And if you remember in the interview André Onana gave towards the end of his first season, he asked the journalist, do you really want to tell me that the best goalkeeper of UEFA Champions League has gone from being the best to being a bad goalkeeper? No. You know, so he knows, he believes in his qualities. He knows he is a good goalkeeper. And I think every technician, everyone who sits down in the football, the professionals world, those who do the statistics, those who write reports on players, when they analyze players, they will still tell you that that person in Manchester United goal is still a very good goalkeeper. You know.
Yeah, and to back up what you say, the German, football side marketplace rates Onana at 32, values Onana at 32 million euros. And that's also something. I mean, I want you to have a say on this, right? When I look at Bayern Munich, when I look at Barcelona, and maybe in a couple of years, there's another team I'm thinking about. I mean, there are some teams that actually need goalkeeper with a profile of André Onana. The teams are called Barcelona, Bayern Munich. I not think about it. Manchester City. Very soon, Manchester. I mean, what do you make of this? Because it's look at André Onana. If he doesn't continue at Manchester United, it could be a steal for these teams, because when you look at these teams, they are in need of a goalkeeper. I mean, what do you make
exactly
of
exactly so, and if you and to drive that point home, if you go back to the quote that you were reading from Van der Sar, Van der Sar said he has a very bright future. Now, if Van der Sar writes André Onana's CV to any club, know that they're going to sign him. They're going to sign him. And he doesn't need to. Like I said to you, all the technical directors are watching. And like you rightly say, Manchester City's goalkeeper has been talking about wanting to move to get a new experience. Might want to go to Saudi. Before André Onana came to Manchester United, we all knew Pep Guardiola adores him, loves him, the way he plays. Now, like you said, Manuel Neuer is coming to an end. Bayern Munich might need a keeper. They might come for him. Now, even though, as I understand now, that Barcelona has renewed Chesney's contract, there is still a possibility. He trained at Barcelona. André Onana is built to play for Barcelona. And I wouldn't be surprised if you turn around and André Onana has moved to Barcelona. There are teams that will sign André Onana or the click of a finger, because he is a very good goalkeeper still. He is a very good goalkeeper still, So teams that dominate possession will not miss on the chance to sign André Onana, because the skills are still there. It just needs the right fit for André Onana to perform as is expected. But remember one thing, like we said, he concedes a lot of goals because of the way he plays. But if he plays in a team that scores a lot of goals, a team that wants to dominate possession, André Onana will be a success story.
Yep, exactly. And they're still in the running for the Europa. They just beat. Did you watch the game? The game against Betis? No, that wasn't Betis. Bilbao.
No,
right?
they played against Jogaden. Jogaden from Sweden. They played
no.
Chelsea. They played Betis. Bilbao. Sorry, Bilbao.
They played Bilbao, where they actually
Chelsea played Jogaden, not Manchester United. Yes,
exactly.
so I did not watch the game. I was watching my favorite team, so I didn't watch Manchester United. But I think I had the game going on my computer on Sky Sports, and I was watching Spurs on the telly. And then all of a sudden, when I turned around, it was 2-0 red card. I just thought, okay, there's no point anymore watching that. So, no.
Yeah, and there was stats that came in the 3 previous games played by Manchester United from 16 finals, quarterfinals, and now semi-finals. All of those teams have actually been red carded, So somehow Manchester United is playing against 10 people. But he actually had a good game, made some pretty good saves. I watched the first half of that game. He actually had some pretty good saves. And now, let's say go to finals, they will be facing Tottenham Hotspurs in the finals, because I think Tottenham win 3-1, right?
Yes.
In that game, okay, 3-1. Yes. So they might be facing it. It might be an all England final, Manchester United against Tottenham, and Onana will now be in a space where he can win a Europa, Cup with Manchester United. and all that talk about Onana, because he's also won an FA Cup, all that talk about Onana for Manchester United not being performant could be actually in question. Before we actually close down on this, I'm not sure if you have listened to an interview. There was an interview about André Onana in Cameroon. I think there's an interview that he gave to a Cameroonian news outlet, and he was asked about his current relationship with Samuel Eto'o, and he chose not to talk specifically about it. And some people are saying that Onana has been ungrateful towards Fondespor, who actually gave him an opportunity. I mean, if you listen to that interview, what do you make of that?
I think Andre does certainly need some work around his media skills, definitely. But I think people tend to sensationalize things a lot. I didn't see anything wrong with what he said. You know, I think sometimes even when journalists ask those questions, they already know the answers, some of the answers to them. And I think what he was simply trying to do is just make it clear to that person that, oh no, before I went there, I was actually somewhere else, you know. So it's not as if everything I have came from there, you know. So there's nothing wrong with that. You know, the seeds were sold somewhere else, you know. Yes, but then the seeds had already flowered a little bit. They sprouted a little bit before I went to Fundespor. And then, but it's at Fundespor, and this is what he said, where I started courting the world of professionalism. So I actually learned the trade here, and it was perfected here. You know,
so indirectly, he gives credit to Fundespor, right?
Yes, he does give credit. He does give credit to Fundespor, you know, but people just don't want to see it. People just want to hear what they want to hear. You know, they're not reading. You don't have to say everything to put your message through, you know. So sometimes you say A and B, but A and B is leading you to C. You understand what C is, you know. He said before coming to Fundespor, I was somewhere else, and he called the coach's name, you know, the person who was coaching him before he went to Fundespor. So I don't see what was wrong with that, you know.
Exactly. I like the way you look at it, because I also said this, right? I say people also forget that football is a business. And in business, it's not only you getting an opportunity, but these football academies also make money out of these players. So it's a business, it's a give and take. It's like when you go to school, when you go to college, okay, you say, okay, like you went to Bali, you're Boba. You said you thank the, okay, Bali gave you the stage, but you also paid, you know, to get an education. So it's like both ways. You see what I'm saying? So it's a business. So sometimes in business you have relationships down the line that go sour. So this constant attitude of saying that we need to keep thanking those who gave us an opportunity, as if a player like André Onana did not work hard.
He certainly worked hard, and certainly Samuel Eto'o would have earned some money from that as well. Fundespor would have earned some money from that as well. So it's not as if they have not been rewarded for the work that they've done with Andre. I think they would have been rewarded, and they move on from each other. You know, there's nothing. They'll always be grateful that, you know, he will always be grateful that he was given that opportunity, but he had the skills. He was spotted because he had skills. Do you understand? And that's the point he was trying to make. Yes, I went to Fundespor, but before I went to Fundespor, I was already a goalkeeper. I was voted the best goalkeeper at a competition, and so then I was recruited to join Fundespor. It's not that Fundespor gave me. It's not that Fundespor gave me everything. Fundespor gave me the opportunity to come into contact with the professional side of football.
It's been a very, very, very good conversation, especially with you, my brother, because I call you my brother because we go a long way. We grew up together, Bamenda, all those good old years and stuff like that. And we've come to the end of this conversation about Andre Onana. I mean, do you have anything else to say about Andre Onana?
Just to conclude, to say, from all what we've said, I think the issues with Onana's performances at Manchester United are not just down to Andre Onana. It's the team. It's the whole setup. And that Andre Onana as an individual is still a very good goalkeeper, as backed up by the quote from Edwin van der Sar, you know. And I think I should read it again to conclude, is that I think that it's quite early, but Andre has a fantastic career in front of him. He is gaining more experience. He has all the qualities that a goalkeeper needs. So I'm sure for the next 5 to 6 years, he will keep improving. He has the right attitude to be the goalkeeper for Manchester United for a very long time. Get this in your head, people. Get this in your head. So just because we're shouting, we don't like him, he makes too many errors. No. Andre Onana has not made more. He has improved. He made 5 errors in his first season. He's made 3 errors this season. He is fit on the list of goalkeepers who've made errors leading to goals this season. There are goalkeepers who've made more errors than him. It's just because he's at Man United. You know, some goalkeepers have made twice the number of errors he's made. And you can actually compare the situation of Andre Onana at Manchester United to that of Sanchez at Chelsea. Sanchez does make mistakes, but he is a wonderful shot stopper. And Maresca has made some changes, and he's saying that it's not working. I need to go back to Sanchez. Otherwise, we're going to get hammered, you know. And Amorim has taken Andre out of the firing line, and people have realized, actually, Bayindi is not good enough, you know. So who is good enough for Manchester United, you know? And it boils down again to that thing. Andre Onana is not the exception. Andre Onana is the rule. Good players have struggled at Manchester United since 2013. Andre Onana is one of them. Arrived at Manchester United at a high, and now he is at a low, with a club that is at the low and trying to find their way again. And I think they could find their way together, or they could part ways. If they do part ways, we have listened to what Van der Sar has said. He has a bright future in front of him. He has all the skills, and he is improving every day. The important word here is improving. People think the goalkeeper role is perfection. It's not. You improve every day, and you improve because you make mistakes. You make mistakes and you improve. The stats back it up. He's gone from 5 errors leading to goals to 3. He's conceded lesser goals this season than he did last season. Things are improving, and the team is moving towards the European Cup finals. You know, so things are improving. Hopefully, the club gets better players in that can complement Andre Onana and form a resultant composition of a team that is more compact defensively and can play well out from the back or build up from the back. Otherwise, they need to part ways. But my conclusion is Andre Onana remains a very good goalkeeper, and I only see 3 goalkeepers in Africa: Andre Onana, Yassine Bonu, and what's the Senegalese goalkeeper's name again?
Oh, the one who went to what's his name? Oh, I just forgot. The like guy who left Chelsea.
Who was at Chelsea? Indeed. Who was at Chelsea? Mendy.
Mendy.
Andre Onana is actually in a similar situation like Mendy. Mendy was voted the best goalkeeper in the world. In the world. A few mistakes, and they will not let him breathe. They will not let him breathe. You know, so
as I
there
said,
you go. When you're in Manchester United, you caught the media, you are in the spotlight, and people will talk and talk as if you're the only one who is making these mistakes, or as if you're the worst player or the worst goalkeeper. I bet you the statistics do not say that. The statistics do not say that.
Thank you very much for that. This has been a very, very good conversation with you. It's always brilliant. I think Jabulani Football Network is going places. This is our first edition, and we talked about Onana. We'll be bringing up more programs like this one, and it's always a pleasure. I know it's quite late right now over there in Portsmouth, and you've had a long day. So thank you very much. Anything else before I say?
You're welcome. You're welcome. See you in our next episode.
Good night, and stay tuned. Jabulani Football Network will bring you more of such episodes. Thanks. Follow us, subscribe on various platforms, and we shall be going on this journey with you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, True Lion. Have a great day, brother.
Thank you.
And see you soon.